This is the Red Podcast.
It's Red Podcast, the marketing podcast for experts. If you've got a message, you want to make people care about it. You want to get people to your podcast, to your book, to your live events. This is the podcast for you. That's what I help you do. I help you reach your audience. I help you expand it, engage your audience, and deliver your perfect message. If you want to do these things via podcasting specifically, my latest book is called Big Podcast. That is available wherever books are sold. But let me give you an easy link to remember. bigpodcast.com/book. If you like audiobooks, you want to feel like a rich man because you're paying me to read this book to you, you can do that. And you can actually do it for free. bigpodcast.com/book. I've got an offer there that will get you hooked up with the Audible version free of charge. On this episode, I want to talk about being that guy. We are in a changing world. We're in a brand new year in the United States. We have a brand new president, and the world is changing. Some of that change is uncomfortable. I get that. I'm almost 50. I used to think I was pretty open-minded. I used to think I was pretty flexible. And I still think that. But the people behind me keep pushing the envelope. And when that happens, you realize that you might not be as open-minded or as flexible as you thought. Take it back a few years. Think about your neighborhood. If you're in a neighborhood like me, your neighborhood is changing. There's development going on. Families move out, families come in. They're widening roads, they're building buildings. If you have thought, well, I like the neighborhood like it used to be better, or if you've ever used the word the good old days, keep in mind that the good old days for some people are right now. These kids coming up right now, these are the good old days. And they will look back at this decade, the 20s, and think, man, sure wish we could get back to the 20s. While you're thinking, things are progressing a little too fast for me. As I mentioned, we've got a new president. The presidential inauguration just happened. And right now we are in that very fresh period where one leader has been replaced by another. Sometimes when this happens, it's like the Who saying, meet the new boss, same as the old boss. Sometimes when this happens, and I think this is happening right now, and I'm talking type of leader, not the leader himself. In general, I'm talking about the type of leader, not the leader himself. Although that leader himself, he was replaced too. One of the new leaders we've got, she's female. So maybe I should say the leader herself was replaced too. Let's talk about her, Kamala Harris. I watched the inauguration, and she was exiting the Capitol to go be sworn in. She's got this huge staircase. And there's Marines and all sorts of military people saluting. There's past presidents. There's super important people watching her exit the building, coming down this flight of stairs. There's people like me in your living room watching it on television. People all around the world. She's coming down the stairs with her husband. We call him the second gentleman. That is also new for the United States. And she's in this dress. She's got high heels under the dress. One step at a time. Looks treacherous to me. And I'm thinking, oh man, I hope she does not trip. When I go down the stairs, I hold the rails. Not because I'm pushing 50. I've always done that. I never go down a staircase without holding a rail. It's not that I'm paranoid, but I've seen too many things happen. I'll give you one example of a record producer I know, Tony Brown. He was also president of MCA Records. Worked with Reba, Vince Gill, George Jones. Big time producer. He had a huge fall a few years ago. I'll read you what Wikipedia said about it. During a business dinner on April 11th, 2003, Brown fell down a flight of stairs, resulting in a brain injury. He underwent 2 surgeries. He fully recovered, but I think a rail is a small price to pay for avoiding 2 surgeries and brain injury. But if you got a big event and the world is watching, you're trying to look strong. You can't hold the rail, not without getting some pushback. That would be like walking down a ramp with somebody holding you up. It's not a good look. Anyway, Kamala's coming down. She's almost to the bottom. She had a bit of a misstep, with about 2 steps left. She didn't trip, but you could see it in her face. It was like, whoa. She hurried down the last couple of steps, got to the bottom, and she gives people around her a look. And I think it's really too bad she had a mask on that we couldn't see this look, but you could tell it in her eyes. It was that look like, that was a close call. I don't know if you've ever done that where you're walking, kind of trip, and you look around, see if anybody's looking at you. You kind of, like, hey, close call. Lucky I didn't end up on my butt. And when she did that, I thought, that's really refreshing. So many leaders would be like the guy who falls on his face, but he doesn't want to admit it. He just gets up and he's not going to admit that it just happened. And nobody else wants to mention that it just happened. Kind of like the king has no clothes. Remember that? Nobody wanted to tell the king that he had no clothes. He thought he had these invisible threads because people were scared of him as a leader. That's why I like that. That's that approachability. I've talked about this in the big podcast book that I mentioned. This is one of the best things that you can do as a podcaster, as an expert, is have that approachability. Being somebody in the music industry, this is something that I saw all the time with big acts. They were either felt to be approachable or they were felt to be non-approachable. Taylor Swift, it feels to people like she's approachable. It feels like you could go up to her and she would sign an autograph. She would take a quick photo with you. She'd be cool. People love her for that. Some people, they don't have such great reputations. I've been at meet and greets before where an artist will come through. They'll send a handler to the crowd that's waiting ahead of time. And I remember going to this one. I'm not going to say who she is. This would be embarrassing. And he comes up and he says, Mrs. Blank is very tired and very busy. She doesn't have a lot of time to do this. She's going to do it anyway, like it was some kind of burden. Please do not have an extended conversation with her. Please do not look at her, touch her. It was like, what's the point? What's the point? She's just coming there. I guess you can stand 3 feet away from her. And this was way before COVID time. This was not some kind of safety thing. Whatever. Get your snapshot done. Move you through the line, and you can say, oh, I met her, but you didn't really meet her because she was not approachable. Let me take it back to Kamala Harris. She gets sworn in, and then she starts her business as vice president. And one of the first things that she needed to do was swap out the senators. She was also one of those senators being swapped out because as vice president, she can no longer be a senator. Check this out. I'm going to play this clip from it.
The chair lays before the Senate 2 certificates of election for the state of Georgia and a certificate of appointment to fill the vacancy created by the resignation of former Senator Kamala D. Harris of California. Yeah, that was very weird. Okay.
Same type of attitude. She can laugh at herself. It was weird. That's the kind of leader that people want to be with. That's the kind of leader people buy from. That's the kind of leader people work for. On the flip side of that, you know who can't laugh at himself? Let me tell you this other story. This happened just last week. Let me give you the backstory. A syndicated radio personality, he's kept his office open for months, even during the pandemic. Over 100 people who work for him have contracted COVID-19 because of it. And those are just the direct employees. That's not counting these people that are going home, giving it to their families giving it to other people in the community. In my opinion, pretty irresponsible because these guys could work from home. But this leader, if you want to call him that, he likes having control over them. He likes knowing where they are. He likes to monitor them. So a journalist wrote an article. It's for a real news source, not just a blog. And I'm going to read you the company's response to that article. This response, it says that it came from the company's PR, but I'm pretty sure it's the guy himself, the radio host himself. I'm going to leave the name off this one too, because this is so embarrassing. The email is public-relations at his domain name. It says, Bob, Thanks for reaching out. We want to confirm for you that you are right. We are horrible, evil people. We exist simply to bring harm to our team, take advantage of our customers, and spread COVID. And you figured it out. Wow. Who would have guessed that an unemployed guy, a freelance reporter, would be the one to show us how horrible we are so we can change and let the world know of our evil intent, secrets, and complete disregard for decency. But you did it. With all your top-notch investigative skills, you've been able to weave together a series of half-truths to expose our evil ways. You are truly amazing. Because your personal virtue is so incredible, we want to help you with your hit piece and confirmation bias. We actually have audio of the time, I'm not going to mention this name, blank, farted in church, and you should have a listen. It is truly horrendous. A couple of weeks ago, our team decided to do a worship service today at 4:30 to kick off the new year. We would love to have you come. You can bring your camera and get some great shots because there will probably be someone without a mask. Who knows? There might be someone not socially distancing. And if you use those razor-sharp investigative skills of yours, you will probably catch one of them with their hands raised in worship to Jesus, which if captioned properly, would prove we are an evil cult. Since this is today, it won't even delay your Pulitzer Prize-winning expose of our pure evilness. Yes, you will be in a building where 1,000 people hate you, but we will assign security to protect you. This is how cults do it. Please let us know in advance if you can make it so we can personally meet you at the door. And thanks again for using your superior virtue to point out our pure evil intent. I'm sure you can find more if you keep looking. We are blind copying several friends to ask for their help as well. They are pastors of the top churches in the area, several business leaders, and Christian leaders who have known blank company, not going to mention it, for decades. Also, we are copying our whole team. If you were on this email, we would ask a favor for blank. Would you help us? Bob's phone number and email are here. And we would ask that you contact him today and tell him all the evil, horrible stories you know about us. Also, he lives in, it mentions the small town where he lives, so if you see him out and about, be sure to congratulate him on his virtue. He needs to sell this story to pay his rent, and the dirtier your story on us, the more we can help him. When you call, please do not be mean. Bob already has a lot of anxiety, and we don't want to add to that. If his phone is overwhelmed or he doesn't want to hear your story, you should contact, then it has the name of the news outlet, and tell them of Bob's amazing grasp on virtue and truth. You can also tell him of all the people that have been helped by his pursuit of truth throughout the years as we have followed his career, and careers in quotes. It is time the world knows about Bob and the blessing he has been to so many. Again, this came from the public relations department of this company. It's a big company, maybe 1,000 employees. I don't know. A lot. A huge employer. Let me ask you a couple of questions. What kind of leader would you rather follow? One who laughs at herself, or one who can't take criticism, or one who isn't very respectful of people, one who doesn't give second chances, so if you mess up, you're in trouble? That seems like a very stressful place to me. I'm definitely going to pick the person who can laugh at themselves, who makes mistakes, who isn't afraid to be embarrassed, as opposed to the guy who's so tightly wound. He's afraid of looking like an idiot, and he just snaps at people. Maybe people like this, who is a real reporter, by the way. Not that freelancing is a bad thing. The kind of person who belittles people. I've had business meetings. I had one with a guy. It was just a fast food joint, nothing fancy. But he was so short with the staff who were trying to help him. I was like, I'm done. We can go. We can go. I'm not going to work with this guy. That's important to me. Maybe it's just me. Maybe it's just me. But I don't think it shows leadership. I see people do this with their customers, with their listeners, their podcasters, with their readers, if they're authors, where they talk down to them. I think we can go down to where they are maybe they don't know as much, and try to bring them up. But I don't think we need to talk down to them. I think we should try to be understanding of where people are, maybe with their finances or with their relationships. If you're somebody who helps somebody with relationships, do you want to help people or not? Do you want to help people be better or not? I'm hoping that this new administration that we have in the United States will extend that open-mindedness and extend that attitude of having a sense of humor about things and not taking things so seriously and seeing the humanity in people, rather than something like this guy did, where he's going to belittle people. And look, we can analyze this all day. Well, he's just scared. He's not good at taking criticism. Yeah, well, don't follow people like that. Let's stop making stupid people famous, and let's stop being those kind of people. We've all got work to do. But I think if you're looking to grow your business, and like I said, reach a new audience, expand on that audience, and deliver a great message, this is how it's going to happen. To take it back to what I said at the very beginning of this, the world is changing. And I think there was a time, maybe 20, 30 years ago, where people loved that really hard-edged leader, and he's going to tell it like it is. And if you look at older people, and by that I mean older than me, 70, 80-year-old people, sometimes some conservative people fall into this, I think. Some people that maybe grew up in like an ultra-religious household, for example, or a very strict household. They're used to that kind of authority being laid over them. Biker gangs, for example. I talk about this in my new book, and I blogged about it. I used to have a friend of mine, husband was a biker, and he was a very strict man. She was comfortable with that because she knew exactly where she stood. If you're used to a spouse like that, a husband, a wife like that, a teacher like that, maybe you like leaders like this. But younger people, the guys coming up behind us, they are not connecting to this kind of attitude. Something to be aware of. If you want to attract people in their 20s, their 30s, and even younger, these guys are coming up who may buy from you in the future, if you're still around 10, 20, 30 years from now, know that that kind of hard message is not going to work as well as it has in the past, or even as well as it is working now. So thinking about all of this, what kind of leader would you like to be? Go be that leader. This is not a leadership podcast. I'm not a leadership expert. I'm a marketing expert. My job is to help you grow an audience. This is part of that. If you want to do that via podcasting, I mentioned the book. Big Podcast is what it is called. For more information on that, bigpodcast.com/book. I've got a Kindle version. I've got a paperback that's huge, 463 pages, 93,000 words. Amazon has it on sale right now. Bigpodcast.com/book will get you that price. If you want the Audible version, the audiobook, there is a deal where you can get that free with a 30-day trial of Audible. Bigpodcast.com/book. For all the podcasts that I do, all of them about growing your audience, delivering your message, being a better podcast host, being a better authority, bigpodcast.com/subscribe. All of it is there. Between the podcast and between the book, I'm going to help you grow your audience. I'm going to help you get people to your message, whether that's book, blog, podcast. And I'm going to help you have more impact. Thank you for listening to Red Podcast. I'll see you on the next episode.